Good morning, or depending when you're watching this, good afternoon, good evening, or good night. My name's Ross, and as always told, I had a voice radio. So today, we are going to be looking at when Baby Pokemon ruled the Pokemon trading card game. Just yesterday, I did a video where we had a nice look at starter Pokemon nowadays, and why they're looking very important, and which ones you should be playing. So I thought now it would be a little bit of fun to go back in time and have a look at some older setup Pokemon. And ladies and gentlemen, these are all baby Pokemon, and we are going to start with the king of the baby Pokemon. It is Klepfer. Now we're talking about Heart Gold, Soul Silver. I know there was some eking going on prior to that. Now it came out in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, but was reprinted in Call of Legends, which was largely a reprint set. And for Zero Energy, that's right, ladies and gentlemen, this is back when we had old Zero Energy attacks. Shuffle your hand into your deck, draw 6 cards, Klepfer is now asleep. Sounds like fun. You just get a hand refresh. So what you do every turn, you play all the cards that are in your hand, and then you just use Eek to refill your hand to do the same thing the following turn. And you basically did this turn after turn until your deck was set up and you were ready to go. Now at this point you might be thinking, yeah Ross, but come on. It's a 30 HP Pokemon. You're absolutely right, ladies and gentlemen. But it had the Pokebody Sweet Sleeping Face. As long as Klepfer is asleep, prevent all damage done to Klepfer by attacks. Other effects like poison would go through, but Klepfer can't be damaged when it's asleep. And it goes to sleep when it attacks. So when you attack, you end your turn, it then goes to your opponent's turn, you flip for sleep, and there is a 50-50 chance that you'll stay asleep and not be able to be damaged on your opponent's turn, meaning that they have to just not KO you, and off you go. That's why the 30 HP was so doable. Although, as a little bit of a side note, ladies and gentlemen, it did have free retreat as well, which was pretty tasty. Now, the other one that saw a fair amount of play, this one came around in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, but did not get a reprint. This was Pichu. And Pichu, for 0 energy on a 30 HP free retreating Pokemon, had the attack Playground. 0 energy, each player can search for as many basics as they like and put them onto their bench. And then, of course, Pichu goes to sleep. Both players get to completely fill their bench. But the thing is, generally you would play Pichu if you were playing a real setup deck. Like the deck that Ross Cawthorn played at the World Championships to a second place finish in 2011, which involved playing all kinds of things like Donphan and Blissey and Zekrom and Reuniclus, etc. So, unless you were playing another deck like that, you wanted to fill up your bench more than your opponent did, so even though you would be helping your opponent, you'd be helping yourself more. And then, of course, you've got the Pokebody Sweet Sleeping Face. As long as Pichu is asleep, prevent all damage done to Pichu by attacks. So again, we've got the same situation where you're essentially hoping that you stay asleep after attacking, so that you are immune, and then you hope that you wake up before your turn so you can retreat, and off we go. And we're going to talk about this at the end of the video, ladies and gentlemen, but yes, this did involve a whole bunch of games coming down to who could flip the most coins, and yes, it was incredibly annoying. Now, they were the main two. Everybody played Klepfer, even most decks playing Pichu also played Klepfer for turns where they had all of their basics, but not all of the energy evolutions they wanted, etc. And then real setup decks, ones that needed a lot, used Pichu, but they were not, ladies and gentlemen, the only option. One option that a whole bunch of people started playing, and you'll see why pretty much everybody played it soon, Tyrogue. Tyrogue came around in Heart Gold, Soul Silver, was reprinted in Call of Legends, and for 0 energy, you do 30 damage and go to sleep, and again you've got that same Sweet Sleeping Face Pokebody, although for colourblind people like myself, that colour writing on that background is not much fun at all. But I digress. And, of course, the reason why this is so good, everyone's, and I mean everyone's playing Klepfer. And a whole bunch of people are playing Pichu. So that means that if your opponent's Pichu wakes up, or your opponent's Klepfer wakes up, you just pop a Tyrogue there and you get a free KO. And then, of course, you hope that you stay asleep so that your opponent can't KO you back. Tyrogue wasn't particularly good in and of itself. 30 damage was not all that great, and it didn't hit for weakness, which was a bit of a pain, although it also went through resistance, so swings and roundabouts. But the thing that made Tyrogue so gosh darn good is the fact that he KO'd Klepfer. That was nice. Now, the other one that saw a little bit of play here and there that was a little bit of fun was Smoochum. By the way, there's no Hey Nick in this video. These are proper baby Pokemon, as determined in the official lexicon of Pokemon. Now, this was only released in Heart Gold, Soul Silver. Again, we've got the sweet sleeping face Pokebody, but for 0 energy, move an energy card attached to one of your opponent's Pokemon to another one of their Pokemon, and then go to sleep. We've actually seen this attack happen quite a few times in the Pokemon trading card game. Ambipom G used Tail Code, which a lot of SP players would use, and of course it wasn't an attack, but Slowking, that really didn't come around all that long ago. If I remember correctly, he came around in Breakpoint and is still legal, has this same kind of thing, but in an ability. This is really fun. Essentially what you do with Smoochum, or Slowking, whatever, is that you move all of your opponent's energy onto a bench Pokemon that they're not going to be attacking with, and then they have no energy, and then you can go and sweep for the game. Smoochum didn't see a huge amount of play, but there were more than a couple people running around using this as a rogue deck, so it gets a mention. Now, there were some others, but I'm going to be honest with you, ladies and gentlemen, these were not played very much at all. You'd see them pop up here and there, but really, it was Klepfer, Pichu, and Tyrogue with the occasional Smoochum. One that came around only in Call of Legends, not a reprint, was Mime Jr. Again, you've got Sweet Sleeping Face, 0 Retreat, etc. And again, you've got a 0 energy attack. But this one puts the top card of your opponent's deck in the Lost Zone. That, ladies and gentlemen, was a lot of fun. The Lost Zone doesn't really work at the moment, but essentially the Lost Zone is like a second discard pile, but as the name might suggest, you can't get stuff back from the Lost Zone. When it hits the Lost Zone, it's gone, ladies and gentlemen. It's gone forever. Hence, Lost Zone. And there were a couple Pokemon that really benefited from the Lost Zone. Mew had a Pokebody, meaning it could use the attacks of all Pokemon in the Lost Zone, yours and your opponent's. So I suppose maybe you could use Mime Jr. to set up Mew, but really Mime Jr. was a really good setup Pokemon in Gengar Prime decks. Gengar had a Pokebody that said if any of your opponent's Pokemon would be KO'd, they go in the Lost Zone. Then, of course, you've got Mime Jr. that does that as well. Plus the attack Hurl into Darkness. Look at your opponent's hand and choose a number of Pokemon you find there, up to the number of Psychic Energy attached to Gengar. Put the Pokemon you choose there into the Lost Zone. Why was this all interesting? Because there was a stadium, Lost World, and Lost World, the stadium, said once during each player's turn, if their opponent has 6 or more Pokemon in the Lost Zone, they may declare themselves a winner of the game. Mime Jr. was a really fun starter Pokemon for that particular deck. And as a side note, I have done some old deck videos in the past. I'd happily do some again. So if you want a full 10-minute video on the Lost Zone and the associated decks, let me know. I will happily make one. And we also had Magby. Now, Magby, ladies and gentlemen, I'm going to be perfectly honest, was not a particularly great Pokemon. Again, I saw people playing this. I would occasionally sit down at a table opposite someone and see them flip over a Magby, but it was rare. Now, this one, weirdly enough, actually came around in Triumphant and was reprinted in Call of Legends. And for 0 energy, you burn your opponent and you're now asleep. I'm going to be honest, it wasn't particularly good. And the final one, ladies and gentlemen, was Igglybuff, which, again, was not a particularly great Pokemon. Same sweet sleeping face ability, or Pokebody as it was back then. Pokebodies were passive abilities that are just always there. So Vileplume would have been a Pokebody back in the day. Zero energy. Your opponent's next turn, all of their attacks cost 1 colourless more. Not a particularly good one. Again, I saw it see play a little bit here and there, but it really didn't see much play at all, ladies and gentlemen. So they were the baby Pokemon, but it really was Klepfer, Pichu, and Tyrogue. But I said about the coin flips, and what was really annoying, back then we didn't have Lysander. We had Pokemon Reversal, which is as Pokemon Catcher is now. Flip a coin to grab a Pokemon and drag it active. So if your opponent stayed asleep after using a baby Pokemon's attack, you wouldn't be able to get a KO. So what you would have to do is try using a Pokemon Reversal to bring up a bench Pokemon and hit that instead. So games really did just evolve into, yay, the baby Pokemon woke up, I can hit it, or boo, it didn't wake up, now I get to flip a Pokemon Reversal. And then if you hit heads, it was good, but if they didn't wake up and then you hit tails on a Pokemon Reversal, ladies and gentlemen, the frustration was very real. It was annoying, but it really was the game back then. It's not a format many people are terribly happy with all the coin flips, and as great as Klepfer is, please, everyone, just take a moment to acknowledge how lovely it is that the game is not entirely reliant on coin flips, at least in the early game, as it was back then. But ladies and gentlemen, let me know what you thought of this video. I get generally good responses to history videos, so let me know about this one. Is this the kind of thing you'd like to see more of in the future? Go nuts, be nice. Make sure you like this video, subscribe to this channel, follow me on Twitter at @TheWassy, and Twitch at twitch.tv/PTCGRadio. If you want to support the channel, get some bonus podcasts, etc., you can do so by going to patreon.com/PTCGRadio. But by far the most important thing, as always, is to look after yourselves until next time. Thank you very much for watching. My name's Ross, and you've been watching PTCG Radio.